Welcome to this month's episode of the PAC. I'm Emma Sellers, Chief Recruitment and Engagement Officer at the PA Education Association. Today's episode is supported by Logan University. I'm delighted to have Jasmine Cofield on the podcast. Jasmine Cofield is a physician assistant specializing in psychiatry at her own practice, Focus Forward Psychiatry. Her leadership journey began with co-founding Physician Assistants of Color. Through her clinical and advocacy work, she focuses on mental preparedness, resilience, and helping pre-PAs and PA students recognize their transferable skills and thrive throughout training and practice. Jasmine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Jasmine, before we jump into all these good things, tell us a little bit about the Physician Assistants of Color organization, or again, ThePAC. Tell me about your role, how it came about, just all the stuff about this organization.
Absolutely. So the Physician Assistants of Color organization, or the PAC, was started when I was in PA school. I was attending University of Detroit Mercy, and as someone who would have considered herself mentally prepared for PA school, academically prepared for PA school, I found myself in a lot of academic struggles that second semester. It ultimately led to my dismissal, and I was allowed to return. After about 2 semesters, I had to return and repeat the course that led to that dismissal. And right before I returned to the class in my cohort, I did some self-reflection. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do so this doesn't happen again? And after reflecting on that, I realized that I needed to create at least some support for myself in case I find myself in the situation again. And at the time, I knew about 2 other students in Atlanta and Florida who were also PA students in their cohort. And I reached out and I said, hey, let's create this group. I know you're probably the only one in your cohort or class that is of color. I don't know if you're feeling the same pressures as I am, but I would love some support. We can just reach out and connect when we need it. And that's how it started, as a GroupMe, just connecting with people. And a lot of people started to hear about it, started to also share the same sentiments about being the only one or feeling the pressures of PA school. And I found that a very supportive environment, although we were all across the country and in different stages of our journey. But I would be remiss if I did not mention my other 2 co-founders, Samora Longu, or Samora Charles, who is the Senior Director of Planning and Development, and Minerva Lobe, who is the Senior Director of Educational Development. Those were also 2 pivotal women who joined and helped us officially become a nonprofit when we all graduated around the 2020-2021 years. So it started off as a GroupMe, just supporting one another. We were answering questions, encouraging one another. And then when Minerva and Samora joined, they helped legitimize this group and actually become a nonprofit official organization. And it has been the 3 of us since 2017.
I love it. The power of connection, a GroupMe that turns into something national. 3 women, this is phenomenal. And let's keep going a little bit more. So the name, of course, Physician Assistants of Color, started by 3 women, three women of color, but who all can join the organization? How might PA students or pre-PA students, advisors, how can people interact or engage and even find out more about the organization?
Absolutely. So we are mainly online. So we started creating services based on where we saw the greatest need. When pre-PA students would join, we noticed that they had a lot of questions about navigating CASPA applications. A big one was personal statements, preparing for their mock interviews. So the 3 of us started to create a service line where we will offer consults, we will offer mock interview prep, and then we will offer personal statement review and just helping students navigate the CASPA application. We have multiple channels that are available for anyone who is interested. Our Facebook is a great channel. We still have our GroupMe. And then we also have an Instagram page where we bring awareness on things or announce our events. But a very special platform that a lot of people may not know about is our Mighty Networks platform. That is a paid membership, and students or members who join are accessing discounted services, and then more importantly, more intimate events. For example, when CASPA season opens, we meet once a week and just work on parts of the CASPA application. Sometimes I will do like a PA student meetup. So students who are currently in school and maybe need a study hall or just a group session to reconvene with one another, we'll open that up. We'll offer special guests. And then more importantly, we also have PA programs who are interested in not only supporting our organization, but perhaps just letting students know that, hey, our program is here. We're looking for students like you. We're very open to diverse applicants, and they are able to share their program and students. So because our long-standing history and relationships with PA programs, a lot of students will apply to PA schools just because the PAC recommended. So we value those relationships, those long-standing relationships with programs. And yeah, so far to date, we've approximately gotten 400 students into PA school.
Oh, wow.
We're working on our 7th cohort in the 2025-2026 season. And yeah, that is our most proud result at this point.
Yeah, strong work. Wow. And several things you said that just are extremely interesting to all members of our audience. One, you continuously said any student who wants to apply these services or for all students who want to apply. I love that you still keep with the social media, the GroupMe, all of those things. So it's accessible to everyone, in addition to some of the other services that you offer to receive those. But again, completely accessible to everyone. And 400 students already and just growing. That's absolutely incredible.
One thing that I want to make sure that we put out there is the PAC. We never want to be a part of the barriers that leave a lot of people out from either applying to PA school or get into PA school. So our services have not changed in price since 2017, since we started offering that. What I love the most is the three of us are still full-time working PAs, even having more than one clinical or educational job. So all of the money that we make from the PAC is not in our pocket. It gets reinvested back into the community. We give $5,000 away in scholarships each year. 5 PA students can be awarded $1,000 each. If they apply, we get about, I would say, 200 to 300 applicants a year. So it's
Awesome.
a hard selection process, but it's, again, our testament to the impact that we want to continue to bring to this community and make sure that people are aware that it's accessible. We want to remain affordable and not be a part of those barriers, especially financial, that leads to sometimes the underrepresentation we see today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing that I think is important for our audience to know is that there are tons of services available for pre-PA students, just again, students all across the spectrum of the PA process, and to be able to remain this low cost, again, to not be a barrier for folks and to see that it's given right back to the PAs, to the students is pretty incredible.
Thank you.
Pretty incredible there. Jasmine, something you shared earlier is that about a little bit about your PA path and what led to the PAC being created. And you shared it wasn't necessarily a smooth A to B process for you. Can you talk a little bit more about what your PA pathway was, however you want to highlight that, and how you were able to make that shift? Because I could imagine for any student, for you to get to that point where you had to take a little bit of a pivot, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy decision. Can you talk about that, whatever level?
Absolutely. I love talking about it. I don't mind sharing it. I think my story could help a lot. So, when I mentioned earlier, I considered myself someone who was academically prepared. For context, I graduated high school with 3 associate degrees, and then I went
Yeah.
to Central Michigan and earned a bachelor's degree in neuroscience. I minored in psychology. I graduated with some cum laude honors and got
Mhm.
into PA school my first try on my own. Now that I'm older and I see the landscape of how difficult it is to apply and get into PA schools, I did not know how significant that was to get in on my own like that. So again, I got to PA school, first semester was okay, but the second semester I ran into some struggles. And I would say as a student who was not even used to getting a B, not even doing well in a course was really hard for me to come to terms with. I say now, I don't even think I was recognizing it or believing it because it was not something I was used to. So that's why when I work with students who have perhaps maybe failed a course before or had to retake it, I said, listen, I'm happy you're going through this now than going through it in PA school since it's so fast. You look up and you're in the second month trying to pull yourself out of these exams that you're not doing well in, and it can be overwhelming. So that was my experience. I could not recognize me struggling. So with that, I didn't know where to seek help. I didn't even know that I needed help. And it ultimately led to the dismissal, but as someone who would like to say I'm resilient, I've been wanting to be a PA since I was 15. I fought my way back in and I created these safeguards for myself to make sure that it didn't happen again. But as I got older and I started to reflect more, I realized I wasn't mentally prepared
Yeah.
for PA school.
Yeah. And you mentioned being mentally prepared a couple of times as well. And I know currently with your work, specializing in psychiatry, talk to me a little bit about what that mental preparedness might be, what your experience is, what your experience with PA students is, particularly in your area of specialization now.
Absolutely. So I'll come answer this from three different lenses and perspectives. So I'll start with my own. PA school can be high pressure, high stakes, right? Everyone who gets accepted is smart and perhaps type A and is used to all A's as well. So you are really in a high competitive, or it feels like that, high pressure, high competitive environment. For me, I started staying up a lot studying because it's just great wealth of knowledge that you have to know, and the exams are coming quick. It's a year of classwork, so you are trying to do your best to keep up. And my tactic as somebody who felt like I naturally would understand things, in this case, I had to study more and that meant impacting my sleep. Now that I know more, if you're not sleeping, you're not cognitively functioning at your optimal and you're in class. So that could lead to maybe some anxiety and unable to focus during your lectures. And for me, because I had that history of not doing well in my exams, I started to develop test anxiety.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
a lot of exams were high pressure. In my program specifically, every exam had to be passed with a B minus or higher. It was all over again every time I would step in the room and take an exam. So that was my experience with when I say being mentally prepared. I'm describing these with real words now, like test anxiety, lack of sleep, anxiety, depression. But at that time, I was taking it like, am I meant to be a PA? Do I belong here? So that was how I was processing those symptoms at the time. And then when I started working with my mentees through the PAC, I would see the same scenario. But it was very unique, or what I found ironic about that experience was a lot of PA students were a little bit shy to go seek those services or help when I would like, hey, I think you're dealing with some symptoms that may be best treated with an evaluation or some services, support, medication, perhaps. And it was such a foreign concept that it took maybe half of the year through didactic for someone to even come to terms with being okay with it.
Yeah.
So then when I started working in mental health, I was working in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And for context, that is where the big M is, University of Michigan. And that is a high pressure university as well. It's the number one public university in the country. And I would see how med students, law students, PhD students would seek my services for getting through the hardest times of their academic career. And it made me think, okay, why aren't PAs students the same thing? Where is the disconnect, or where's the mismatch? And the only thing I can come up with is PA school is so fast that there were probably a lot of students who were like me, where by the time you even realized you were struggling or come to terms with you needed help, you were already in front of the board facing this or appeal.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our episode supporter, Logan University. Applications are now open for Logan University's new PA program, which launches January 2027. Be part of the inaugural class at a leading health sciences university with more than 90 years of excellence in healthcare education. Located in Chesterfield, Missouri, a vibrant suburb of St. Louis, Logan offers the perfect blend of innovation, community, and opportunity. Applications are now open, and seats will fill fast. Take the next step towards a rewarding career in healthcare as a PA. Apply directly at logan.edu/PA. Time and time again, and even more in the last couple of years, we're starting to hear more situations of students who, to your point exactly, they don't have the words now currently of test anxiety, depression, things of that nature. It's failing. I'm not smart enough. I can't do this. Maybe I'm not sleeping. They can say some of those things, but it's not quite with the words that you're able to articulate much later. To your point, it's a tough profession that very smart people are getting in, and many folks who have always excelled, and then now at this fast pace, it's very much a shift. And to be able to give some words to that is extremely powerful. Thank you for sharing that, and also letting students know that it happens. It's not just in the PA profession. You listed, you work with medical students and all sorts of folks who are in these high stake professions who are experiencing the same thing. And so it's just being able to call it out.
And I'll add too, I think the negative connotation is if you need help getting through a program such as PA school, are you going to be good enough to be a provider? And that is not the case. In fact, knowing your limitations and knowing when you need resources is what actually makes you a great provider, especially if you're going to be leading other people to optimal health. Yeah, I think it's the pressure. We're conditioned to believe you stay up late all night. Study. It's just how the toughest survive, but it's really no. Those who survive are the ones who know how to equip themselves with the proper resources to successfully and safely get through.
100% equip themselves to be able to get through. Take advantage of all the resources that are there. There's no embarrassment, no stigma with that. When you look back over the work that you're doing now and working with the students in the variety of professions, doing diagnoses, all sorts of things, if you could leave or provide a couple of tips for students who might be in that area of not having the words right now, how can they help themselves through this process? What are some of the first steps to take?
So I recommend constantly keeping an inventory of yourself, right? Am I sleeping? Am I eating? How do I feel before I go into exams? How do I feel before I step onto campus? Doing those mental health checks on yourself will keep a great pulse on yourself on if you need to start seeking some help or services. I don't think it's a bad idea if you know you got to accept into PA school, just putting a therapist or getting aligned with a therapist or a healthcare provider that you can check in with maybe once a month, and you can adjust that frequency based on how well you're doing in the program. It wouldn't be a bad idea because these services could take some time to access. If you wait until you're struggling or it's getting to the point where we say it could be a little too late, that could be the difference between you restarting the year or getting dismissed or graduating.
Yeah.
So I would say doing those mental health checks, possibly getting an evaluation just to make sure there's no diagnoses or symptoms that you may not have been aware of that you can be ahead on before you start that program so they don't exacerbate, or you can mitigate before you even start those programs. Keeping the basic your health. I wasn't eating. I was probably eating once a day, chugging down 4 cups of coffee, one meal. And I look back and I'm like, I see why I was anxious and not able to focus in class and so fatigued. I would even say as a provider now, getting blood work before you go to PA school, just to make sure you know your baseline before you start so you can know what needs to be fixed if it ever comes to that point.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of taking care of yourself first so you can take care of other people. Yep. I know we're on a podcast and we got to be mindful of time, but I got 1,000 other things that I'm going to try to fit into our next couple of minutes here. The other piece that I love about not only the work that you're doing with the PAC, not only the work that you're doing as a PA professional, but really how it just really brings your PA experience together. And so when you think about what the PAC has did for you, what it's doing for other PAs, How would you encourage students to seek out organizations, to seek out the PAC, seek out organizations like the PAC, and what should they be looking for when they're going into these organizations for support?
I would say find your people.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition. How do you feel when you walk in the room? Do you feel seen? Do you finally feel invigorated? It doesn't even take 1,000 people to get those feelings. It just needs, like I said, I started that GroupMe with 2 other PA students that I knew on Instagram. That 1 or 2 people that could just get you through this time where you are feeling understood and heard and seen, then I think that is all the support and community that can be the greatest difference in you doing well.
Yeah. I think that's so important. While it's so important, yes, to have all the help with the application and all those things, it's so much more important to all what you just said, to be seen, to be felt, to have that support, because that is just as important as getting in to PA school. It's important to help you stay in PA school and do well.
It made all the difference for me because I was like, I have to do well because there's so many students who are looking up to me. And it wasn't feeling like pressure, but it just gave me more motivation.
Yeah. Yep. And I imagine a tight network of professionals too, as once folks graduated and everything. You have given tons of nuggets for our audience, again, whether it's pre-PAs, PA students, faculty, staff, advisors. There's something that everyone can truly pick up on. If you could leave our audience with one piece of advice, a couple pieces of advice, what would that be? Whether it's about, again, the PAC, about mental preparedness, whatever your closing thoughts would be.
I would say you have to stay hungry.
Yeah.
You have to want this and understand what you are committing to when you say, I want to be a PA. You will be in charge of other people's lives and health, and they will be looking up to you to lead them into that right direction. And it would start with you. Me personally, I had to lose 70 pounds. I had to start eating whole and healthy. And I started noticing once I got to that point, my patients trusted me more. They listened to me more. I had better relationships with them, and it gave me the confidence ultimately to create my own practice. So patients who were seeking my care specifically, I knew it was because they trusted me with that.
Yeah.
I have pride in the work that I do, and I think that is what kept me driven despite any obstacle I face, no matter how hard it is to balance this and managing the pack and still trying to maintain my personal life. It's my hunger, it's my drive. It's committing to what I said I wanted to do when I was 15. So I think if people keep the main thing, everything will fall into place.
Awesome. Jasmine, thank you so much for just sharing just a little bit, I know, of what you have to give to us in the PA profession. It has been a pleasure to have a little bit of time to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate Jasmine for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. Learn more about PAEA's recruitment and outreach activities at paeaonline.org/recruitment. You can also learn more about the PAC on social media. We want to give a big thanks to this episode's supporter, Logan University. For more information on their PA program, visit logan.edu/PA. We will be back on the PA Path next month, speaking with leaders in our profession, both nationally and worldwide.